Hey y'all, so today I'm going to show you how to make these super simple crocheted pumpkins, perfect for the fall. Now I used 3 different types of chunky yarn just to show you that you can use any kind of chunky yarn that you want. The orange yarn there, that is just the Loops and Threads home style yarn, nice shimmery type of yarn. The Serenity by Deborah Norvell, that's another chunky yarn that I used to make that beige pumpkin. And then I also used the Charisma yarn that you can get from, I think, Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and that made the green pumpkin. So any type of chunky yarn, or you can even use the 4-weight yarn and just double it up. It just makes it quicker. The project go by quicker if you use a chunkier yarn. You'll need a crochet hook. I use 2 different sizes. Don't have to use 2 different sizes, but I will recommend you all that you get a metal blunt tip yarn needle. See, the plastic ones like this are a little bit flimsy, a little bit bendy, and they don't work as well. So if you can find one of these metal blunt tip ones, I would suggest go ahead and using that for this project. Okay, some scissors and some polyfill. You can use anything you want to stuff the pumpkins, but the polyfill works the best. Okay, so I'm going to start by making myself a slip knot, making sure that I leave a very long tail, and I'm using an 8mm crochet hook to create the actual pumpkin. Okay. So see, I'm leaving a nice size tail there because you're going to use that to kind of sew. Okay. Once you have your slip knot, go ahead and place that on your crochet hook, and you're going to start by making yourself a foundation chain. Now this foundation chain that I created is a foundation chain of 18. Okay. Yarn over, pull through the loop, yarn over, pull through the loop, and continue doing that until you get your desired foundation chain length. Now let me just tell you this, the longer the foundation chain, the taller your pumpkin will be. The shorter the foundation chain, the shorter your pumpkin will be. So we're talking about the height of the pumpkin. Once you have your foundation chain created, you can work in the back loops like here, the humps, or you can work straight through the V's. It's a preference thing, so you can decide which one works best for you. So this is what I'm going to do right here. Right through the V I go, and I'm going to do single crochet stitches all the way across. So find your stitch, insert your crochet hook, pull through, yarn over, and then pull through the 2 loops. Again, insert your crochet hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the last 2. That's a single crochet stitch, and this project uses single crochet stitches all the way across. So continue working all the way till you get to the end of the row, and then I'll show you how we do our row 2 and our subsequent rows, which you guys is super simple. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. Continue working. Alrighty. In that very last stitch of the row, you want to go ahead and make sure you do another single crochet stitch. Alright, yarn over, do a chain of 1, and then turn your work. Now we're going to be working into the back loop. So this very first stitch there, I just put it right there in that very first stitch. Just easier to see, and this is an easy beginner project, so don't get overcomplicated. Now turn your work to the side here. You should see some V stitches. That back part of the V, which I'm pointing to, you're going to go through. So not that front side, you're not going to go straight through the V. We're going to create ribs. So you're going to go in the back loop. Okay, so right into that back loop there. And you're just doing a single crochet stitch, you all, just in the back loop. Okay, so instead of going through the front side of the V like we always do for most of the projects, we're going to create a rib or a raised area. Okay, so continue working in the back loop. And I'm not going to stay on camera to create the entire pumpkin swatch, but I'll be on camera to show you a few of the tips. So this is what we're creating. You see that ribbed area right there? That kind of makes the pumpkin look authentic, I think. So that's why we're doing that. At the very end here, I just put a stitch in the very end. I don't worry about trying to find the back loop. It's not going to matter for this project, you all. So do you see how we have a rib there? Super cool. So I'm going to count my stitches. I have 17, okay? So what you're going to do is yarn over, create a chain, turn your work. Into that very first stitch there, I'm going to go ahead and do a single crochet stitch. Okay, turn your work to the side, and now you're going to do into the back loops. Okay, so just like we did in the previous row, we're going to work into the back loops only. Now remember, at the very first part of this row, I went ahead and put the crochet hook right through the very first stitch, but after that I worked in the back loops only, and that's just because it was easier to manipulate the yarn because I'm using a bulky yarn and a semi-large crochet hook. So it's really a preference thing. Just make sure that you do the back loops only all the way down the row, and you should have 17 stitches in each row. So this is what it's going to be looking like, just working in the back loops only. Now remember, I'm not going to stay on camera for all of this, just continue to work. This is what it should be looking like. Okay, so once you get a few rows completed, this is what it's going to start to shape up like. You'll have the nice rib area where it's like the raised areas, which we discussed. Now keep in mind the number of rows that you complete is going to determine how wide your pumpkin is. So as you're working along, this is a little bit further along here. Okay, when you fold this swatch in half, that is going to be the width of my pumpkin, the approximate width, you see? So if you wanted your pumpkin to be wider, then just do more rows. You get it? And if you want it to be shorter, then start with a smaller foundation chain, okay? So now that we have our desired number of rows, we know the size of pumpkin that we want. This pumpkin was 16 inches around. Go ahead and finish off your project. Now you want to create a long tail. Do not go overboard like what I did. This tail was entirely too long, but create a long tail. Do about 24 inches, that's all. You don't need a very, very long tail. I just kind of went overboard. Okay, so you don't need that long of a tail, but what you're going to use the tail to stitch up your pumpkin. Okay, so now that your work is completed, you're going to sew along the side, and then the top we're going to do like a cinch stitch. We're going to cinch it up. So go ahead and thread up your yarn using that long tail. And I'm going to start on the side. It doesn't matter what side you pick, it's just pick a side and start on that. And to do your sewing, you're just going to go through the stitch on the left side, pull your yarn through the stitch on the right side, and you're going to just continue doing that back and forth until you get to the opposite end. Just like that. You can see how long this tail is. Don't make the tail that long. Okay, so I just work it, and then when I get to a point, I'll pull the tail all the way through. Okay, and I'll just continue doing that all the way across. I think these are perfect for craft fairs, or if you're into selling things. These are so easy to create that you can easily create these and then even sell them or just give them away. And you can get probably 2 pumpkins out of each skein, depending on the size of pumpkin that you create. So this is what it's looking like once you get it all cinched up along the side. I flip it inside out so that way it really becomes more seamless. So see there, you can't even really tell where I sewed. Super simple. Okay, now turn your little sleeve to the side, or your pumpkin. It looks like a sleeve. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of weave the yarn needle in and out of the stitches. So this is what I'm showing you. You'll go in and then out, in and out. You kind of see it on the screen a little bit better than I'm explaining it. So you're kind of just weaving the needle through. Once you get a few stitches done, then pull your yarn all the way through, and then just continue doing that all the way around. Okay. And now this should not be hard to pull through. You may see me struggle just a bit. I put lotion on my hands prior to filming, so my hands were a little bit slippery, but it shouldn't be hard for you to work the needle through the yarn. Now I'm just showing you here as you work it. You see how the work starts to gather once you pull the yarn? See here? That's exactly what you want to happen as you work all the way around. So just continue working, weaving the yarn needle in and out of, so behind the stitch, back to the front, behind the stitch, back to the front. I think that kind of makes sense. All right, and then you're going to just pull it taut and make sure that you have it as secure as possible. You'll still have a small hole, which is fine. You're just going to sew that part up. So just kind of smush your work a little bit and then just run your your yarn needle through the area that has the hole so that you can kind of seal that up a little bit better. Okay, and I did that probably about 4 or 5 times. It wasn't just made it look neat, basically was what I'm doing. Okay, and then at some point you're going to determine what's going to be the top of your pumpkin and what's going to be the bottom. So now that you have your pumpkin completed, this kind of looks like a cup. Hint, hint for another project maybe, guys. You can go ahead and stuff your pumpkin with the polyfill, and I stuffed mine pretty good. I wanted it to almost feel overflown, overstuffed, because you're going to work with it some, and the filling gets a little bit more condensed as you work. So once you have your desired amount of stuffing inside your pumpkin, go ahead and string up your yarn needle again. Okay, locate the center portion of your pumpkin, so you'll have that both tails there. You're going to push the needle through the polyfill and through the bottom part of the pumpkin. Just give it a little tug. It's not hard to work through. Again, my hands are slippery, and that's going to create that puckered look at the base part of your pumpkin. So that's what we're doing. We're going to pull both pieces of yarn through the bottom just like I did there. See the yarn there? So I did that for both ends of the yarn. So you remember we had both tail ends, we're pulling that through, and it's not going to matter what side of the pumpkin you start sewing up first. Just start cinching it just like we did before, going in and out all the way around until we cinch up the pumpkin. I hope that makes sense, you all. See, I'm just showing you kind of what it's looking like there. Now you have your yarn on both ends, and I'm going to just push it back through again. And what we're doing here is we're creating that, how pumpkins kind of look like, how pumpkins look, guys. By you pushing the yarn through the bottom, bringing it to the top, it kind of brings the pumpkin more together. You want your ribs to be even, so just go ahead and shape your pumpkin the way you want it to look. Okay. See what it's looking like? Go ahead and secure that yarn there. Okay, so this is almost done. We're going to do a stem. Do you see the difference here in sizes? Not too big. They all have about the same number of rows, but I used the foundation chain was different. Okay, so look, let's create this stem. Now there are some options for stems. Okay, so you could use a stick from your yard to create a stem. I also think a cinnamon stick would be really neat. Pipe cleaner, whatever you want to use for a stem. But if you don't want to do that, you can also crochet a stem. Now, if I didn't have brown chunky yarn already, I would absolutely go with finding a stick in the yard, going that route. If you have brown yarn on hand, use it, because it makes it a little bit more storage friendly. You're able to kind of pack it away season after season. You don't have to worry about trying to, find a new stick or keep the cinnamon stick. It's up to you though, honestly. So to do this, you're just going to do a chain of 5. Then you're going to work back down the row, doing 4 single crochet stitches, and then ending your work there. Okay, just tie those 2 ends together. So it's a very small little stem, which is why I say you don't need a lot of yarn. and you're just gonna connect it. Now you can connect it any way you want to. I did mine by stringing up the end of the yarn and pulling it back through the bottom of the pumpkin again. I think it sits a little bit better in the pumpkin, making it look even more authentic. So using the tail end, I'm just going to insert that into the center portion of the pumpkin, pulling it through, and then taking that same tail and then bringing it back up through to the top of the pumpkin. A lot easier to see than actually to say. And then I'm just giving it a little tie, cutting off all of the ends. And tying that orange string one more time just to make sure everything's secure. Cutting off all of my ends and shaping my pumpkin a little bit more, and that is what you have. Nice and secure. The little stem doesn't come off. Can't even tell where it was attached at the bottom. And so that's it, you all. I made 3 different pumpkins using 3 different types of yarn. All right, and that's it. They turned out perfect. I really enjoyed this project. Any questions, please leave them down in the comment section down below, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.